Welcome back to your favorite St. Louis sports podcast, The Lounatics. I'm your host, Tyler, along with my friend and co-host, John, who sounds like he's cracking open a delicious, refreshing beverage.
I am a delicious and refreshing beverage. Tonight is Citywide Stout because the theme of tonight is stout defense, at least for City SC. But you don't have a stout. You have whiskey, as per usual, ruining the whole vibe and theme we're trying to go for here.
You know, I checked the house. I have 0 stouts in the house. I do have some beers. I do have a Citywide IPA over here, so I mean, I could have been more on brand, I guess, there. But
there we go. We are big forehand stands.
It's in the little mini fridge under me here. So,
well, and if I drink that, I did bring down a bottle of whiskey for after.
Which bottle?
That one I sent you the other day, the Union Horse Distilling Co. I did not like it on ice, but I'm thinking I might like it neat. So I figured I might as well try that tonight and see. Yeah. I mean, I didn't dislike it the other day, but I thought I might like it more neat. So if I finish this and I want more,
you got to be prepared. I'm actually still planning on exercising after this tonight, so I'm going to probably keep it to my one triple that I poured.
No, yeah, there we go. That sounds about right. No, you got to exercise before you do this. And, we've got that bet going with Eric. I'm doing a Bronco test. You're only 2 months out. You better get it figured out.
I'm training for the Bronco test because I plan on being semi-inebriated when it happens.
Right. It's not required to be drunk when we do this, but it is encouraged.
It is going to help.
Exactly.
So, I went with the Colonel E.H. Taylor because I finally cracked that bottle open.
Ooh, flex. Yeah. What a flex.
Yeah, what a flex. I actually snagged another bottle recently, so I have a second one in waiting, which makes it easier to drink this one more.
Wow. Way to show how good of a friend you are that you have a bottle of E.H. Taylor, then you found a second one and did not tell me about the second one, like even being available anywhere. So, I mean, I'm just saying it's okay. It's okay. Keep pretending to be bougie. Don't share information with your friends. It's okay. You're forgiven.
When somebody calls and says they have a single bottle of your favorite bourbon that you can't find, you just take it and you don't ask questions.
I mean, I'm just saying a good friend might say, you know what? One of my good friends might want this one because I have plenty of mine at home. just saying. People don't forget.
So, moving on from that, did want to touch a little bit on the Cardinals before we jump into Blues and City. So Cardinals did have news that came out today. Jordan Walker had a knee injury, but they are reporting that it is not severe and don't show any concerns. My biggest takeaway from that is nothing, because we all saw how Tommy Edmonds' 0 concerns last year played out. So,
I mean, okay, Edmonds.
I'm being a smartass towards the Cardinals organization, but
I know, but that's nowhere near the same thing because he did have off-season surgery, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a recovery thing from that surgery. And I don't know, your wrist, I mean, obviously your knees matter in all sports, but like your wrists kind of matter in baseball for swinging a bat. So I don't know. I get that. But the fact that we still have like these sprinkler covers, and I get that the cover is better than the actual sprinkler head, right? Being out there, but like, come on, why have we not come up with like a better way to like water the fields than to do this and like risk someone who is potentially a several $100 million player like whole career on a freaking sprinkler head?
I think it was, my dad still talks about, I think it was like Vince Coleman back in the day, and they talk about the tarps. Right. Yep. And like the slow tarps, and he was joking around about and kind of being a smart ass about the tarp, whatever, then actually tripped on the tarp as it was rolling out.
Yeah. So I have a similar story. This comes from high school. Okay. Now I did not play baseball in high school because I was doing track. There were a couple people who did both, but I just did track. One year we had 3 foreign exchange students, and all of them did track. Okay, but like, I mean, you did track, right? You do your work, and then you goof off for like the rest of practice. And
Well, that wasn't my track experience, but continue.
oh, okay. Well, our track experience was you got your sprints in or your distance in, and in between sets you goof off a little bit. And I don't even think this guy did his sprints, to be honest. But so he's over on the other side of the clubhouse where the baseball fields are, and he's talking to one of the baseball coaches. And he's at the batting cage, and our batting cage, it had been there for probably 15, 20 years at this point. So the netting had a hole in it. Okay, it was old. We're not replacing the batting cage. And he was Norwegian, and he said, so what? I actually think he was Swedish. There was a Swedish man and a Norwegian. But anyway, he said, what happens if someone hits a ball and it goes through the net and hits someone in the head? Like, you gonna call an ambulance or something? And they were like, well, come on, that's not gonna happen, right? Like, no, of course not. But yeah, I guess we would call an ambulance if that happened. Anyway, 30 minutes later, it happened to that coach, and he was fine. It like had ricocheted off of like the metal framework, so it didn't like have like a whole lot of power on it when it hit him.
Wasn't straight off.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so that was pretty good when we heard about that one after.
Yeah, I mean, like there was some goofing off in track practice, like when you were doing or between sets, but I took things a little too seriously when I was in high school and was trying to run as many sets as I could until it got dark and I couldn't see the hurdles anymore.
Yeah, see, track was for meeting girls. So, like, I'm glad you were successful. I was successful as well.
We were both successful at what we were there for.
Yes, exactly. 100%. 100%. Unfortunately, there was not a state finals heat for my competition that I was in.
So, all right, I do have one question for you for the Cardinals before we move on, and I want to see if you get this right or not. So, of players with more than one at bat in spring training,
okay,
who's leading the team in the average department?
Oh, I have no idea who's leading an average. It seems like every spring training post I've seen from literally any team is so-and-so hits a home run. Like, that's just like all I've seen. And it's like all the normal people, right? Leading an average, I want to go with something like completely off the wall, like Luke and Baker, just to like, because I know it's not going to be who I expect it to be. Let's go Burley.
It's Victor Scott II.
Oh, good choice.
He's at like 562. He's hitting over 500 right now.
Yeah. Hey, that's your everyday center fielder.
If he hits, I mean, if he just hits, he doesn't even have to hit.
Like, he doesn't have to hit 560. He could hit 400 and he'd still be the everyday center fielder.
He could hit 260 and be our everyday center fielder.
God, ain't that the truth?
If we're being honest.
Right. Now is also a good time to mention spring training. Your average doesn't really matter because, they're really just trying to the pitchers are trying to locate a certain ball or a certain pitch. They may throw that same pitch to you every single time. They're not really working on trying to get you out. But still, positive sign, seeing the ball well.
Just because you guessed Luke and Baker, he's a little further down. He's hitting 267.
He could be your everyday center fielder.
I would. If Luke and Baker is our starting center fielder at any point this season, we have thrown in the towel. Yeah. It is over.
At that point, we're no longer building for like 2026. We're building for like 2031.
Oh, you think we'd be that close still?
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, no. And it's correct. And I think, keep in mind, there's a lot of people who are excited about his numbers and how well he's been hitting the ball. Victor Scott II also hit the crap out of the ball last spring training when there was a lot of fastballs and repetitive pitches. But since the pitch mix got a little more intense the start of the season, he struggled a lot more there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great call out because, I mean, you and I last spring were talking almost every week, getting really kind of outraged that they were not committing to giving him a chance. And then he came up and he had a really rough April last year. And that's part of the growing process. That's true for a lot of guys the first time they've really come up to the majors. And that's part of why those September call ups are such a big deal for those younger guys. Let them get that experience then, so that way the next year when you're actually counting on them to play every day, like they already know what it's like to be a major league player. Yeah,
Not everyone's going to start off the season on a 12-game hitting streak or whatever it was.
Right, that is correct. That is an unusual way to start your season. Here in maybe next week, maybe in 3 weeks, nobody knows when we are recording our Cardinal season preview, but we will be doing one sometime in the month of March. And when we do, we're going to deep dive into all of this and more. And I am really excited for that. I have literally no reason to be excited for this Cardinal season, yet somehow I am.
I think it's the innate Cardinals fan in us, right? We both grew up in mid-Missouri. You more north, you were more mid-Missouri. I was more southern mid-Missouri. But
yeah,
same general area. And we are all Cardinals fans. That's how we grew up, and we got excited for Cardinals baseball year after year. And I think it's important to kind of call that out, right? It's you want that to be good again. I'm more excited actually going into this season than I felt last season, and I don't expect better results. I'm just more excited to see these young guys play and what we actually have, and kind of see how things play out. And if we finish a few games worse than last year, a few games better than last year, I'm not as worried about that as much as the development and where we land. Now, again, I don't want. And now, if we have a huge drop off, then that's much more concerning, right? But if we're close to where we were last year, pushing the youth movement, you'd hope that then that would be good signs for 2026.
Yeah, and I mean, I have concerns that the youth movement is not as youthful as they pretended like it was. But I think that's a good call out too, is that it's about framing what this season is going to be about. Like, we've known for a while that this team has not been that great. You know, the last 2 seasons have been really rough, and it's okay to have a reload or a building for the future kind of season, especially when we have so many young guys that were really excited to get those opportunities who previously were being blocked. And that was part of what was, hampering their development. And so I think that that's completely normal to do that, because, that's the expectation is, hey, this year we're supposedly, and again, I can debate this, going to give at bats to younger guys, and we're going to give innings pitched to younger guys that we've heard about for a long time, and we're going to see what they're really like. We're going to see who actually steps up. And, like you said, if they're an 81 win team this year, that's probably acceptable for me with all of this going on. Now, if they're a 65 win team, no, because that's never acceptable, because this is St. Louis. But yeah.
We'll see. It's Mo's last year. He might try to go out with a bang, and it may not be a pretty one.
Right.
All right. Do you want to jump into the hockey from here, or do you want to jump into City?
Yeah.
All right.
Hockey.
So you and I talked last episode how I got a lot of flack for saying on a different podcast that I hopped on and did a joint recorded as a guest on, that if we were going to trade Bennington, you trade him while he still has value and you don't wait to do it. Again, not saying we should trade Bennington, but saying if you're considering it, you do it when you do it. It's better to do it a season too early than a season too late.
Sure.
Again, shout out to Jacob from the Blues Fan Forum podcast for cutting that reel to make it look like I was just saying you got to trade him right now, because that, I guarantee, got a lot of people.
I mean, I've heard you say that like 3, 4, 5 times outside of that podcast. So I don't know why you're putting all this blame on Jacob. But
yeah, I've been calling for Bennington to honestly be traded since, even the Stanley Cup winning season.
2019, right?
Yeah, no,
in the finals.
Yeah, before Game 7, I was like, dude, we should trade him right now.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
So, what was concerning for the team, right, is there was a lot of concern that Hofer was outplaying Bennington on a night in and night out basis. You and I talked about, and I've talked about it before many a time, that Bennington's the kind of goalie and the kind of player that has to have a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. And he has
Oh,
to,
absolutely.
he also plays better under pressure. I think the Four Nations tournament was the perfect opportunity for him to have the pressure of the USA Canada thing. He stole that game and for
Oh,
Canada
the finals.
in the
Yeah.
finals.
Yeah, he did.
And he set them up for success, and he really rolled that into the season. So since we've come back from the break, we have lost 2 games. Neither game was a game that Bennington started. So we had a shootout loss. Then we won our next 4 games, and then we lost 6-3 in our last game. Now, that last game loss was a wonky situation. We had a back-to-back. We had to travel right after a late game. And
Right.
so there's some things there. So you don't want to play Bennington back-to-back nights, but Hofer plays the next night, gives up 3 goals on like 9 shots in the first period, gets pulled. We end up losing 6-3, but it's actually a lot closer than that. And the grit that the team showed was good. So losing 6-3 the other night felt very different than when we were losing those big games in December, at least to me. The way the team played, the way they fought back, felt more encouraging. But 6 games since the break, we are 4-1-1. Tonight is our last game before the deadline. And it's kind of that what do you do situation. And I have my thoughts, but I'm curious as to where you're at. I mean, there's been a lot of talk. One of the most talked about players being traded is actually our captain, Braden Shen. And so do you see anybody on our team getting moved before the deadline, or at least, top 6, top 9 forward, or, top 4 defensive pairing, or Benner?
I mean, or Benner. I don't know. I think like a week ago, you could have made the case for more trades, especially outgoing. And then the last week has happened, right? And 2 weeks, whatever. And now you're kind of like, well, I don't know. Should we be buying? I've seen the chatter around Shin, and the thought is we would get a similar player back who maybe has more control would be what we would be looking for. I don't know. I thought I saw some about Pareko as well. I don't know. I have no idea what this team is going to do here. I think they should probably try to be buyers if they can be. Nothing's guaranteed yet, but they're 3 points out of a wild card spot. And granted, they have played an extra game compared to Calgary. They have played 2 extra games compared to Vancouver. So, I mean, they're kind of behind it now, but they've climbed up the standings a lot with that little win streak. You know me, I'm a guy who likes to go for it, right? I like to roll the dice. I don't know who we would trade out if we were buying either, because that's the other part of it, right? Is who would other teams want to trade back to us?
So I think it's going to depend on how the market shakes up. If you want I think the way the team has played the last week, they've shown that the locker room's kind of coming together. I think having the break, letting guys reset and then come back after a rough start to the season, after trying to learn a new coach's system, do the things, I think they're playing much better, playing much more cohesive hockey, and really you're seeing more of what Montgomery is going to bring to the table, I think, long term at the moment. Again, you don't expect to go 4-1-1 every 6 games, long term forever, right? But you see the effort, you see the expectations, you see the guys getting to the spots they need to be in on the ice. And I think that's what you look for. If anything, the only reason I see us making a trade is if the bottom falls out of the market on a player or two that Army's got his eye on, so he knows he can get them cheap, or the market takes a different turn and somebody's willing to overpay compared to the market for a Braden Shin or somebody.
Yeah.
Army's not going to say no to something like that, but I don't see any big moves for the Blues right now. I don't think you mess with the locker room and the vibe and where they're at, because they are playing well together. They are, you can tell that there's a good thing going, and they're finally starting to kind of kick it into gear. So my gut tells me we don't see any major moves unless it's something like that. But I'm going to say no major moves on this one.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to make a bet, I would put the bet on no moves. But could they? Should they? You could make a case for any single thing that they could do at this point. You could make a case for any action that they could take. But I think if they don't make a move, I feel like they're just kind of trying to stay pat, and I think they're going to end right below the wild card line. And it's just like, that's frustrating to me.
The other move that I've thought about, and I've been listening a lot to ESPN radio and other places to see if I can catch anybody else talking about this, and I have not yet. So maybe I'm just an idiot. But
I mean, you are, but that could be unrelated to this.
And that's fair. I could see us trading a forward, an offensive player here close to the deadline, and making room for Snuggerud or Dvorsky down the stretch. Snuggerud is the big one. When Snuggerud finishes the Frozen Four right at the end of the season, those last 6 to 8 games or whatever it is, he could be somebody. But Dvorsky's the one that could be potentially called up sooner. And if you think he's ready, and are you willing to make that trade now and try to call him up maybe a little early?
I mean, I wouldn't be against that, especially if they got, like a decent return for prospects, right? People that we can work on and develop. I would not be against that move. Who would you want to see go out?
That's where it gets hard, right? Who do you see go out? Honestly, and they're not going to, and I don't know if they're going to have any buyers because they're having a bad season. Bucci is one of those guys that, I like him, and I like him as a player. I think if somebody is willing to take him on and his salary on, I think you move him. He's kind of shown to me that the last couple of years he's not where he was previously. And I don't think it's all his fault. I think we've asked him to do a lot of things like playing out of position at center and things. And but we have a lot of young guys coming up. The other person, and I really like this player, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but Bolduc.
Oh, yeah, I bet you are going to get a lot of flack for that. That was not who I expected you to say.
I like Zach Bolduc, but I also know that he's going to fetch a pretty penny. And the only reason I say that is if you think Dvorsky and you think Snuggerud are going to be the real deal, you're going to have to pay those guys around the same time you're going to have to pay Bolduc. And you're not going to be able to afford all three then. But if you trade him now, that opens up a spot right now for somebody to step in.
Yeah, okay. But, I mean, I just don't want to see Bolduc go.
I didn't say I want to see him go, but I'm throwing it out there. I mean, you've got another young forward with Holloway and things. I mean, Kairu's always going to come up, but
outstanding in this little win stretch we've had too.
Holloway and Broberg are amazing. That steal and picking those players up is going to go down as one of the biggest heists in recent memory, as far as like offseason. Sure. And the thing is that the Edmonton Oilers had enough cap space. They could have
kept one
matched, and they could have actually kept them both.
You think so? I haven't looked at how much they had. I knew they could definitely have kept one.
They could have kept them both, but the issue was it was going to make them really hard for them to sign some of their other guys. So what they've done instead is they were hoping for bounce back years from some of their veterans, and they have not done that.
Has not happened.
And those guys are obviously on the downhill of their career, and now we've got Holloway and Broberg who are young and on the coming up,
on the up,
are only going to get better. And if there's one move that I am, there's a couple of like times where like I've seen Army do things, and I'm like, dude, this guy's got it figured out sometimes, right? Like sometimes he's playing chess while others are playing checkers, and that was one of those moves. I think the 2019 season was one of those seasons where he made a lot of moves. And I mean, we went into the 2019 season expecting to be a cup contender, and we looked like hot garbage. But he made some of those moves and trades before the deadline,
Oh yeah.
fully anticipating that these guys are hitting their stride and we're going in for it, and we're going in for it now. So I mean, like, kudos to him for seeing that and going for it. But some of those times, right, where like he does those things and you're like, you know, again, it's a gambling game, right? Those don't always pan out. It doesn't always work. But when it does, you're like, there we go. And honestly, I'd rather have a GM that's going to gamble every now and then. And, you know, Army does a good job of signing contracts, keeping guys when he feels like he should, but he tends to not overpay if he thinks that that's what's going to take. And then
I would agree with that. He does not usually overpay.
And then he, sometimes to the detriment of the team, he's not willing to pay his market value, what is the perceived market value.
Right.
Yeah. But there's times when he just, like, his maneuvering sometimes within the rules of hockey, the signing people to offer sheets and doing the things, right? Like, he's a step ahead, and it's
right.
exciting to see. I would take that over, again, somebody who is always stands pat, right? You need that variation. You need a little bit of the conservative, especially in our market, but you also need to be willing to take a shot and a risk. And I felt like Mozeliak did that more early in his career, a little more.
I mean, Mozeliak has won some trades. He has lost some others. Some of these are, you know, technically losses that are probably barely losses, right? Like a Rosarina, right? I think we lost that trade, but it's not that big of a loss compared to, you know, some of what it could have been. Because that was Libertor, right? He was the return for Rosarina?
I think so.
And I mean, Libertor is maybe not as good as we thought he would be, although God, his curveball is disgusting. But
yeah,
it doesn't matter. Either way, I would agree with that assessment. I do want to see Army take some risks, because I think you kind of have to risk it in this situation if you think you've got a chance at making the playoffs.
And you need the playoff revenue. The Blues need playoff revenue, right? Year after year, right? Like and so the hope is that they get it, and that we can get in. And so that's where, if the trade is right, and I think and you can get somebody, the market value drops on somebody, and you think you can get them for a steal, you take that risk, and you have to take that risk. So it'll be intrigued to see if that's actually how he proceeds or not.
Yeah, I would agree.
So,
and I mean,
so you're saying the Blues finish just below the wild card?
If they do nothing, I think they finish in the 2 spots outside of the wild card, maybe 3, but like kind of close up there.
Current state, I would agree, but another 6-game streak like we just had once or twice more, and all of a sudden we're having a different conversation. So
I mean, yeah.
And if we're close down the stretch, I still wonder, somebody like a Snuggerud, what kind of a boost somebody just coming in and just skating with, you know, with like their hair's on fire and having a little fun with young stuff, and whether or not that injects enough energy to maybe push you over the hump if you're real close.
Or just trying to come in and like prove you belong, right? Like, it's not that unheard of for young guys to come in and dominate. And it's not necessarily something that they can repeat year after year, but, you know, you come up hungry and you're wanting to prove that you should be there. You know, guys play with a little bit extra intensity that way, and that does make a difference. You know, you don't think that it would at, you know, the elite athlete level, but we see it all the time. Now there is, of course, normally an adjustment period for most sports coming up to the, you know, the highest tier. And sure, that could also be what happens, but we've seen Snuggerud before, right? Like, we kind of know what he's about. Like,
and you're not expecting him to come up and play in your first line.
No, absolutely not.
You're expecting him to play more than likely third line minutes, at most second line, some second line minutes, depending on the pairings. And
Right.
you just expect him to inject some energy into your lineup. And if he can do that, it'd be exciting to see. I think, again, the future's bright for the Blues right now with the young players we have coming up. It's really just going to be about how do they mesh together and how do we fill in the spaces between them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree.
So let's talk about one of the least exciting offensive performances we've seen of late and jump into St. Louis City, which, by the way, I
Understatement.
see you wearing the new kit.
You can see the sash. Looks pretty
There's
nice.
a sash?
There is, and you can see it, and I know you can see it, unless you have your camera or your like video set
honestly,
really small.
if you want to know, I can see the sash as it's going into the badge, and if I look close, I can kind of see part of it up by your collar.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, while we're recording, the quality is typically lower than it is in the final. Anyway,
Yes,
I did forget about that. But yes, I am wearing the Forever kit because
Forever City Red.
Forever City Red, or as my buddy Kyle and I like to say, we're going to go with Forever City Rednecks. We're going to, cut off some sleeves, drink some bush lattes, and just have a grand time.
Well, I mean, you could always the Forever City Rednecks also works because the red collars, everyone who wears it has a red neck.
That's true.
So really,
That's
just
true. Look at you. Look at you finding the loopholes. Don't even have to cut the sleeves off.
Oh, I'd still cut the sleeves off. Screw it.
Yeah, it's it's about the vibe.
Why would you not buy a $160 kit and cut the knot?
Right. All of mine have sleeves cut off. Yours don't, obviously.
How did you not make yours sleeveless?
Right.
So we actually have a couple games to kind of talk about because we haven't recorded in a couple of weeks. So we had our season opener, which was also our home opener. We got to play the wonderful dipshits from Colorado that are owned by Stan Kroenke. And then we had to go away to San Diego's home opener and inaugural home opener. So not just for the season, but for their team as a whole. Rating the two games and rating our performance on a scale from 1 to 10 combined for the two games, what would you give our squad on those two?
I think if I were to combine them, I'd probably give them like a 7.5.
You're higher than me. I was going to give them a 6. I give the defense an 8.5 or a 9.
Okay. No. Hold up. Don't fucking come here and tell me you give the defense an 8.5 or a 9. Okay. Berkey's had to make one save. We played 2 games and there have been like that one shot on target.
There have been 2 shots on target. Thank you. He has had to make one save in each game.
Okay. Whatever. Okay. So there's that. We've allowed almost exactly like 1 XG between 2 games. Okay. And like you said, he's made 1 save per game. He's had to do nothing. He looks bored out there. Not so much in the San Diego game. In the Colorado game, he definitely looked bored at times. So there is absolutely no way we kept 2 clean sheets. And I'll say this: San Diego, yeah, sure, they had the ball 90% of the game or whatever it ended up being. I know it wasn't 90, it was 70%, whatever. They never looked dangerous with it. They never looked like they knew exactly what they were going to do. They had like maybe 2 half chances that looked like they might have become something. The first one, 5 seconds into the game, when they had Chucky Lozano free between Kessler and Hebert, and they were both like, oh, wait, maybe we need to wake up here. But he couldn't bring it down. That's how the game goes. And then, they had the one corner that looked dangerous where the header went over the bar. That was pretty much it, right? So you can't sit here and tell me that the defense does not deserve a 10 as far as the center backs and the wing backs and Berkey. You cannot tell me that defensively they do not deserve a 10.
I mean, so you're telling me Hebert deserves a 10 after those passes he made?
As a whole, okay, fine, a 9.9. and 9.9 because of 2 passes from Hebert in the Colorado game.
And the worst part was both of those passes came in the span of like 3 minutes of game time.
They weren't even. It was less than that. They were right in front of my seats.
It was like it was
it
was in like
he
roughly
passed,
the same possession.
Yeah, because he passed it. We won it back. They passed it to Hebert, and Hebert did it again. And I mean, I swear to God, it was in like maybe 90 seconds. Like it could have even been less than that. Credit to them though, they won the ball back really fast both times. He did that. That being said, that those were dangerous. They were not pretty. And like my section, we like he did it, and you heard a lot of, what the F, Kyle, going out. And then when he did it a second time, I heard someone 2 rows behind me go, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" like really loud. And then he settled down and didn't do it again. But yeah, that was a thing.
So again, watching at home with the missus, and it happened the first time, and I was like, "God damn it, Hebert! You've looked good all game. Don't fuck it up now." And then it happened again, and Lindsay looked at me and goes, "What the fuck?" And I'm like, I don't know.
I know. I felt so freaking bad for him. And like I said, it happened right in front of us. Like I could see his face and like the oh shit look on his face. Like you don't have to, no one has to tell him he fucked up in that moment, because obviously, but also like he knew, like, oh shit. But other than that, I mean, now if we're going to add like the midfield and the forwards in as far as the defense, I can definitely start deducting points there, especially for San Diego. The midfield looked god awful against San Diego, and I would love to talk about why I think that is in a little bit. But as far as the back five and Berkey, like, no, they did really, really well defensively. I do think San Diego had the scouting report, and they continued to force the ball to Hebert when we had it and in possession. And then they covered really well. So then he passed back to Berkey, who then would pass to Kessler, who would then pass to Hebert. And then I swear to God, we watched this rotation like so much in that game. But anytime you tried to pass it forward, you'd see Hartle or Betcher or Toyshirt trying to do these back heels or these flicks, and they had no idea where anyone else is. So they were just kicking it into San Diego space.
Yeah. So again, I gave them a 6. I thought they were creative in the first game. And again, our offense as a whole looked good in the first game.
They're just missing some finishing touch.
But it's the thing we ran into last season, right? Who's going to put the ball in the net? Not like that. It's not the same. It's not exactly the same. I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but like you still had that moment of like, okay, but who's going to step up and put the ball in the net? And I know they called back that goal for Betcher because they said Kessler was offside
by like his freaking shoulder. Yeah,
it was
like clearly offside, but
he was offside. But it's one of those things where I'm like, come on, and it is what it is. It's fine. It happens, and it's part of soccer. But I felt in the Colorado game that like, man, our offense is ready to explode. We're like right on that cusp, and we are itching for something. And but at the same time, like I said, I docked them points. That Colorado game, I give our team overall like an 8 or an 8.5. The biggest the docking is just being able to finish the ball, and I loved the placement of where the balls were coming in at from Hartle's corners. But I felt like he doesn't have enough pace on his corners. It makes it hard. So when our guys are hitting it with their head, like, you shouldn't have to generate pace with your header. You should be redirecting, and there's just not enough pace on those corners for them to redirect with any kind of.
Yeah.
And we still almost got one back, but like, again, you got Stefan having a hell of a game. Did not do us any favors.
And on the one hand, like, we did kick the ball straight at Stefan a lot, but part of goalkeeping is positioning before the shot is taken, so that way you're in the best spot to block it. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on before the ball is kicked at you that goalkeepers do to prevent a shot or a goal. So how I got to 7.5 is I actually kind of averaged my 2. Okay. And I think I'm probably giving the team a lot more credit for San Diego than most people are. And I would love to talk about why in a moment. But yeah, I gave them an 8.5 to an. I can't give them a 9. I feel like you need to get a win to get a 9. But they played really, really well. They clearly dominated actually playing the game, except for the only stat that matters, which is goals. And so I felt like an 8 was reasonable for Colorado. San Diego, I gave them a 7. Now, why did I give them a 7? Number one, you're drawing away, which is kind of what you always hope to do. You're drawing away, and yes, the offense looked just god awful. And mostly that was the midfield, I think, making poor decisions and also just being very, very rushed because of the San Diego press. And I actually looked into their pressing, and their pressing was ungodly for that game from San Diego. But also the Snapdragon pitch sucks. Did you see that like 3-foot divot right outside our box that Boateng left? Yeah. Like, I don't want our guys sprinting on that. Like, I'm not convinced that that's not why Lozano pulled a hammy, is because of the pitch. Like, I am completely okay if we low block on that pitch until they fix the turf. No concerns at all from me for that. The other thing about this is it is San Diego's first game ever at home, right? That energy level it's just unmatched when you have a soccer crazed city that's getting to have their first match ever. We know, we saw it 2 years ago, right? Against the LA Galaxy, are you familiar with the stat PPDA?
Give me the definition. And
passes per defensive action. So it's basically how many passes you let a team have before you press in some way.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you some numbers, okay? Us against Colorado this year was like 13.8. We weren't like a crazy high press. We pressed when we had to. It was a little bit more tactical, but we were definitely, on the front foot when we wanted to be.
Yeah.
San Diego versus LA. LA Galaxy were 19 something, which basically, is almost non-existent. San Diego was like 13.4. So kind of similar to us. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And you'd expect, and I was like, because I was like, once you said it, I'm like, yeah, they talk about it sometimes, like on some other stuff where typical teams are like roundabout, like an average team is like 15 to 16.
Exactly.
Usually.
Exactly. So
just for viewers
2024
and listeners.
Right, for viewers. 2024 St. Louis City was like 10 passes per defensive action. So pretty high press.
Yeah.
2023 was a little bit lower. It was like 9 something, I think, maybe high 8s. I don't remember exactly, but it was lower in 2023. We all watched those games. We know that press was more than pretty much any other team in MLS, and that a lot of the time it was unsustainable until teams started getting their passing patterns down to get out of it.
Yeah.
San Diego's PPDA against St. Louis City was like 7.3.
Oh, good Lord.
So like, yeah, we just had no chance, and that's unsustainable across the season, right? And I do have to give San Diego kind of some credit when you get to the tactical conversation of how this goes, right? Okay, so first off, we've got Olaf coming in, okay? He makes the single smartest sub that I think we have ever seen in 2 years, taking Toyshirt out, which was planned, but bringing in Durkin to try to shore up the midfield. Thought that was incredibly brilliant to try to change the game. I don't think it necessarily worked, but you could see what he was doing. Great attempt.
It was a great plan to make sure that we didn't screw up, or try to make sure we didn't continue to screw up anything in the midfield.
Right. And I do think that this game would have been really good for Klaus compared to our other forwards because of his hold-up play, but you don't know what you're going into until you get into it. You can't change that. But then they adapt and they start low blocking more. St. Louis City starts to low block, okay? Well, how do you beat a low block? What would you do, Tyler?
You'd possess, and then you'd work your way up the field, and then wait till you get your opportunities to rip shots from top of the box.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got a couple ways you can do that. You can try to pull defenders out of position, but if they're playing the low block right, they're just going to not move. They're going to sit, which we did. So then your other option you have is basically to try to overload the space by flooding the box, right? And San Diego did not do that, right? They stayed defensive, because if they had overloaded the box, we'd have hit the counter really fast. So what happens when you do that? You get a 0-0 draw, and everyone hates everything about the last 90 minutes of their life. So anyway, I don't think that that's how San Diego is going to play all year. I think it's going to be a very different game when they come to St. Louis in May. I'm not taking anything away from this. First match, energy off the charts, changes everything.
I think, again, my biggest concern, they were pressing the hell out of us. But also, I think that number skewed a little bit, and that you mentioned it earlier, is that we weren't making smart passes, right? We were doing...
Yeah.
So the only player on the pitch that I'm okay with doing goofy back heel awkward passes right now is Hartle. Because he showed me last year. He was bad at it that game. I give you that. But, and it drives Lindsay absolutely insane. Lindsay is always like, the guy will not just pass the ball straight. He has to do this or that or whatever. And I'm like, if it's working, it's working, and I'm just not going to complain. And now it did not work against San Diego. It did not.
But it's fun, Lindsay. It's fun to watch him back heel, okay? It makes other guys look stupid. And we like that. We like the other team to look stupid.
Look, we signed Hartle for one reason alone, is to make other teams look stupid. And when he does this, he's accomplishing that. So
yes,
I'm going to need you to
chill on the back heel. Yeah.
No, but again, the problem is I don't like Betcher starting. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think he is a much better change of pace type because of his energy level coming in. And you and I have highlighted players that are good for that before, but to me, and it's not that he's bad starter. I just think we have better options as starters. I was honestly really shocked to see him starting over Klaus.
That was a surprise to me. Actually, it was more of a surprise to me to see Toyshirt start than Betcher. I do think Betcher played better against Colorado, at least in things that you can track and objectively measure and stuff. And I'll be honest, I did not notice a lot of Klaus that game, but it's game one. I was not in mid-season form yet for watching off-ball movement as well as I should have been.
And you're adjusting to the new seats.
And I'm adjusting to the new seats. So yeah, there's a lot going on. I was drinking, let's be clear.
Trying to make sure you got your Soul Taco down before...
I did not get Soul Taco.
Oh,
actually.
God.
I did. I went to Damn Fine Hand Pies.
Oh, how was it? Was it damn fine?
I would not call the hand pie damn fine. It was fine. It was fine.
It was not fine. Hand fine.
Yeah. It was not. It probably would be better fresh at the restaurant, right? Because they're just making as much as they can to get ready for people, and I think it probably is a lot better at the restaurant, but also it's overpriced. I will say that the hand pie is definitely overpriced for what you get. The donut was delicious. It was amazing. It was probably 2,000 calories on its own. It was Tyler, I'm not lying. Inside, they had a little 3x3 square cardboard container.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, this thing weighed 3 pounds. And all it had in it was this donut. And I'll send you a picture of it next to literally one of these, actually. And
honestly, you should post it on the socials.
I posted it on my socials, but I will post it on the official socials.
Or send it to me and I'll post it on the socials. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to post it for the Seattle game. But anyway, I swear to God, you can see in the photo, the donut is this tall next to the can. It's huge. It was delicious. It was too much, but it was delicious.
Hey, if you think this much is huge, I got some messages for you.
Yeah, right. I need you to call my wife. Let her know. Oh God.
So anyway, it was good. The donut was amazing. Hand pie was.
It was fine.
I tell you what, my favorite food so far at City Park It's still mayo ketchup, getting the Cuban. I'm a sucker
Oh,
for a
yeah.
good Cuban. God, that thing is so good.
Have you ever gotten
Um,
the empanadas there?
Also delicious.
Also delicious. Damn fine
What?
empanadas.
Yes, they are hella fine empanadas.
Yes. Yes.
So, and they're obviously Soul Taco. God, showing up and just get one of their burritos. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
and because they have and burritos easy to eat, right? While you're at the
Yeah.
game, you
Yeah.
only need one hand. And then,
And you don't have to eat breakfast the next day
is
because
it
you're
is
so
it
full.
is it Padrinos over there behind the supporter section? Is that the
Yeah, with the tacos.
yeah? Padrinos tacos are always good.
Very
So
good. Very good.
I get Padrinos tacos at halftime pretty much every game.
Mm.
So like I'll eat either a Cuban or a burrito before
And
the
then
game,
go get Padrinos.
and then I get Padrinos tacos at halftime.
Yeah. You order, well, because you order it through the app, and then when
Yeah.
it's ready, you just run over and get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
When
because
it hits like the 40th minute, 42nd minute, and I'm like Padrinos, and then I start
Right.
walking that way at halftime. By the time I get there, it's ready, and then I go back to my seat.
Yeah. So my seat is directly in line with the top of the 18 on the supporter section side on the north end. So I'm like right in front of mayo ketchup. And so like,
Yeah.
I know I'm going to be hitting that up just all the time.
And Soul Taco is just right above you.
Yeah.
Right up
straight
the steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say this, and Pappy's is right next door to it. I will say I do think they need to find a way to ventilate Pappy's a little bit better, because we were just smelling like old grease, like coming out, and it has to be from the Pappy's. Like that's the only thing it could possibly be from. So that is a complaint I have right now. Hopefully it gets fixed. Maybe on a windier day, because it was not very windy. Hopefully on a windier day it'll carry that more.
I have a complaint about City Park
Okay.
and their food and stuff. They have in the Hellcat, that's where you can get beer on tap,
Yes.
right? The pressure in their kegs is goddamn atrocious.
Yes.
It takes
Yes,
these
it
poor
is.
bartenders like 45 seconds to pour a beer. I'm like,
Yeah.
can we not get some better pressure in these
Yeah,
things?
and they have some serious lines at Hellcat too. I haven't been. I only go maybe once or twice a year, and it's like I only go when I'm craving like a civil life, basically.
Yeah. Well,
That's
and
pretty much the only time I go.
The thing that gets me is like these poor bartenders, like they have these these stupid long lines, but it's just because they can't get beers to pour fast enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my biggest food drink complaint at City Park is they need to get better pressure in their on beer stuff. But you know what I do anyway now is I just go to one of their like walk-in, walk-out things, and I get
that's all.
I
That's
just
what
get
I
a
do,
Brilligans.
80% of the time.
I get a Brilligans, and then I order my food on the app and show up when it's ready.
This is what I normally get, because it's like the only stout in the stadium most days. But the other thing I will do sometimes is I will order like something like through the app, like for food, or even not even with food. Sometimes I'll just order a Brewligans from like Soul Taco.
Oh yeah,
and like go up and just grab the beer from them. I have definitely done that on multiple occasions.
Oh yeah, no, well that's what I do. Like Padrinos, I order my drink and my tacos, and I walk up, I go to the bathroom, I wait to pick up my food, grab my food, my drink, and go back to my seat, and I'm ready for the second half.
Yeah, I'm saying I do that without ordering the food.
Oh yeah, I'm fatty though.
Yeah, well, fair. You're looking pretty good though. Your workouts have been helping. That Bronco test, man, you don't want to be embarrassed.
I don't care if I win or not. I just cannot lose by too large of a margin.
How much is too much? How much is too much to lose by? What do you think you're going to run?
I don't even remember what I have to run at the end, what I'm timed on anymore. I need to look it back up. I just know it's going to be hell.
It's 1,200 meters in sprints. It's 60 down and back, 40 down and back, 20 down and back 5 times. Okay. So the thing I found online said that okay is basically 5:15 or less. Okay. And then like every 15 seconds is like another tier. And if you watch the video of them doing it, there were like several guys on the team that were in the elite level of like less than 420. Like someone ran it in 412, which is,
I'd be okay with 420.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, which for reference, like, what is it? That's, in fact, where's my calculator at? So if you didn't have to do any turns, okay, and if my calculator would load, here we go.
I'm going to run it in 690.
690. Oh, gosh.
I'm a child. I gotta stop I gotta get rid of this clicky pen in front of me because I'm just fidgeting with it. People
So
are going to be
that's a
like, what the hell is that
545
noise?
mile, right? If you did 420, that's a 545 mile. Okay. But you're losing time on the turns.
Yeah.
So like, what are they actually running their mile in? You know,
Right.
like,
Yeah. Well, so I guess, and I got to look, like I said, I looked it up when we first talked about doing it. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And now I'm like, oh, this is going to suck. Um, Also, I'm pretty sure I'm in for the Cardinals Cares, the one that I'm going to be running with you. But I got to
perfect.
register this week.
You should do that.
Yeah. So the but is it a continuous? Is it 60
It's a
down?
continuous.
Yeah. It's you all the way
It's
through,
60.
and
Well,
then
it's 60,
60, 40, 30,
20,
yeah.
right. And then you go back up to 60. So you do 60, 40, 20, 60, 40, 20, and so on until you've done 5 sets.
Okay. Nonstop the whole way through.
Nonstop. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna suck. So yeah, give me a 6 minutes and 90 seconds.
Good. A full 7:30. You can do that. I believe in you.
I think I think I could do that. I think I could potentially do better, but I don't want to get on here and be like, oh, I'm going to do like
Right.
6.5 minutes, and then it comes out back at 7 and be like, no.
I know. I really don't know what I can do it in, and I don't want to make any claims for the
And
exact
if I
same
say
reason.
6 minutes and 90 seconds, I can be a child.
You can be. We did get a little off topic. I wanted to say one more thing about San Diego, too, by the way.
Oh, I have
As
more
far
to
as the
say about that
midfield
too.
goes.
I got into food and I got distracted and
Right. Man, I bet the tacos at Snapdragon are elite, though. Like the margs, I bet they have elite margs.
Oh, they have to. The margs, they're probably heavy-handed because you heard the chant.
Yeah. I know. I honestly actually did not hear the chant on the broadcast because I hyper focused so much, and then everyone was like posting about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Sure they absolutely are doing that. And then I heard the like announcement saying to knock it off.
Yeah, and also
as well.
Yeah, none of the women in St. Louis are happy that you're calling Berkey gay. None.
Also, being homophobic is not cool. So fuck you.
Know. Also that, yeah. I mean, the bigger issue is the discrimination, and it is a problem. And it's honestly,
yes.
you and I have talked about the shenanigans in CONCACAF and how the shit needs to stop for a while.
Right.
I mean,
like, there's
shenanigans within CONCACAF that are never going to change, like going and playing in the Caribbean and then 3 days later having to play in Greenland. But like you or Canada, right? But like,
or do you remember that first game Balogun played for the US in Vegas? And
oh my God.
And just like the look on his face as like all this shit is going down with going
on.
With like McKinney getting expelled for fighting and he's got his jersey ripped and stuff. And Balogun is just like, what the fuck is this?
Balogun was like, I gave up playing for England for this.
Right. 100%. That was it. What was running through his mind?
God, no. Again, so there's shenanigans within the CONCACAF that I expect. But the stupid discrimination, the throwing of things at players, like that kind of shit has got to stop.
Yes,
and absolutely. I don't know how we have not gotten a better handle on it.
Well, so MLS actually has a pretty decent handle on it because like LAFC and LA Galaxy are also obviously in Southern California, have huge contingents of Mexican fans, and we don't really hear it from them. And that's because when it did happen, MLS shut it down, and they have several different ways that they've done it. They've never had to cause a team to forfeit, but that is supposedly potentially on the table if people won't stop. I've heard that the team does get fined if it's, if it's audible on the broadcast, which that clearly was. And I get why they didn't stop the match, right? Like, I'm not saying that this is okay, but like, I totally get, I see why MLS did not do it, even though it's bullshit. They didn't do it because it was San Diego's first game ever, right? So that's why they waited so long to say anything about it. They wanted to wait until the game was almost over so that if they abandoned it, it'd be like, well, you still got to play almost the whole match. And I think that that's complete crap. And I have a feeling that it's going to have a much shorter threshold moving forward, and it absolutely should. It's unacceptable. And like I said, that's not to excuse MLS's decision for doing that, but like I mean, we're all pretty cynical, right? That we all know that MLS, stands for ML money sign, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that doesn't surprise me that they did it, even though, like I said, it's complete bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
The funny
I
thing, go ahead.
continue. No, you go
I
ahead.
mean, I was going to change it. I was going to change the topic.
Okay, so before you change the topic, I think again, like you said, they've gotten a good handle on it. You don't see it as much as Southern California. I do think San Diego is going to be more of a problem. They're 30 minutes from Tijuana. So
Yeah.
I really do think you're going to have a bigger issue still in San Diego than what you've had in the other California and in the LA areas. But I think MLS will squash it. It's just going to be how quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's going to take a lot from the team and the supporter groups to take leadership on it. But I mean, there are matches in Europe that have been played, behind closed doors because of discrimination related things, right? Like that's obviously a potential thing, not that they would want to do it. There's abandoning the match. There's fines to the team. Like no one wants to say that they are responsible for their team having a competitive disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's going to want to, be okay with fellow fans putting their team in that spot, right? So there are ways. I am definitely going to be watching their game if I'm able to. This week they play away at RSL, but next week they play at home, which means they play at the same time we do. So I won't get to watch it. I'm going to be looking on the socials at halftime to see if the chant can be heard.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, can I talk about something fun now?
Yeah, I'd love to hear something fun that's not
Okay.
depressing like homophobia.
Yes, 100%. I have never had a "we are so back" moment as I have when the second half kicked off and Durkin's out there in the lineup now, and 30 seconds in, he commits a foul. And then while I'm, typing up a tweet saying LMAO, Durkin committed a foul 30 seconds into his 2025 season, he commits a second foul. So we're now 90 seconds into the half and he's committed 2 fouls. And like I don't want to like applaud like fouling nonstop, but like one of the things we love about Durkin is he's gonna freaking go for it, and he plays really physical. And like
It's 150% all the time.
yes, exactly. And I was just like, this is amazing. I freaking miss this. And I have to say, getting him back, okay, because compare him and Toyshirt, right? Because Toyshirt played 45,
Mm-hmm.
right? Durkin looked up for it for the full 45. Toyshirt did not look fit enough for 45.
Toy Shirt, I think next game, I think he's going to be closer to 45-minute fit, and I could see him being either starting going 45 or coming off the bench at halftime. I don't, Toy Shirt's not there yet for me, but yeah, Durkin
Yeah,
looked good. We had another season debut.
we did. I was leaving it for you. I was setting it up on a platter for you.
But Celio is back, and I am here for it. And again, we need his creativity at times, and we need him to be able to go and be able to play. So having him being ready to go it's a huge lift, like boost for this team off the bench. If he ends up starting some games, whatever, just in the creativity, changing the ways that we attack, because he does things that nobody else on our team does well.
I will say, I am liking him as a sub for Volum less, because Volum looks like he will do a lot of the same things Celio does, and Volum is clearly eventually going to be 90-minute fit, right? You don't normally want to sub out your wingbacks, right? And if Volum gets subbed out, or if a midfielder gets subbed out for Celio, and you put Celio at left wingback and move Volum centrally, I'm gonna say, yeah, let's go, let's do that.
The counter argument to that is that your wingbacks are running more than just about anybody on the field.
I know.
And so there's a good chance they are going to be the guys that need to be subbed out at 75, even if they're quote unquote 90 fit. If they've had one of those games where they are up and down the whole game.
Sure. If they've had one of those games, but if
having the ability to bring in a Celio for a Volum, where you're still keeping that different attacking style on that other side of the field, I think is nice to have as well.
I mean, yeah, clearly, right? But like, do you really think Tottenham's going to be subbed out that much? I mean, if Alm is fit, maybe. If Alm is fit, maybe. Right? And like they're very high on Joey Zielinski, and which, by the way, fucking called it that he was going to be the one who got a first team contract. I just want to point everyone out that I said that 3 months ago on this podcast.
I think it was like 2 months ago, but it's fine.
Close enough. Whatever. Time is irrelevant.
Time isn't real.
Right. It's not. It is a human construct. But I mean, Tottenham's not going to be subbed out that much. And I mean, like think about it. Like, okay, so you're in an ideal world, Berkey's staying in the whole game. All three center backs are staying in the whole game. Okay. That leaves you with 7 possible people to be subbed out.
Realistically, one of your wingbacks is probably staying in.
Right.
At least, which drops you to 6.
Right. Let's be clear. Durkin is not coming out of the fucking game most games. Right.
Down to 5.
Down to 5. And
you're always going to have one of Toy Shirt, Hartle, and Leuven on the field. So there's 4.
Until like about the 80th to 85th minute. Yeah. But
I say one of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could sub a couple of them off, but you're almost always going to have one of those 3 on the field.
Yeah, but I mean, at the 80th minute or the 85th minute, it would not surprise me if all 3 of them were off, is what I mean. At the end of, like, towards the end of the game, your 5th sub, I could see that person being that. I will say, we've seen Leuven come off of the 60th 2 games in a row now. Interesting. I'm not necessarily against it. It's, maybe we're still building his fitness. Maybe we're just wanting to keep him fresh for the whole season. Let's be clear. As far as midfielders go, he's a big guy.
And he runs a lot more than people realize. We talk about how much Durkin runs and moves.
Yeah.
But Leuven covers a ton of ground every game.
Yeah.
And the way that he plays on the ball, he also takes a bigger beating than people realize.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I have to give Leuven some credit. And I know you and I have talked about this since year 1. He looks so effortless when he runs. You know what I mean? Like a guy that size does not look like he should be, or not even just his size, but like with his build specifically, does not look like he should be able to run the way he does. And he's not exactly quick, but he just looks effortless. And like
yes,
he looks,
it just looks easy for him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like you and I talk a lot about the way people look when they run and stuff, because we have such a running sport background as well.
Well, it's like watching Klaus when he runs. Nothing about Klaus looks effortless.
Nothing Klaus does in life looks effortless, unfortunately.
That includes trying to keep his hair.
Did I tell you about the team messaging me on X?
Yeah, you told me, but our listeners don't know.
Our listeners have not. So the behind the scenes for the jersey reveal, they made Edu look old. They grayed his hair, put some prosthetics on him, and then they had him FaceTime people, and they let him choose who he was going to FaceTime. And I don't know if you guys have seen this video, but the 2 people that he chose to FaceTime were Joao Klaus and Henry Kessler. And I tweeted something out basically, as someone who balded young, I am currently just dying at the savageness of choosing those 2 people to call. And the team messaged me and basically said, we did not choose. Edu chose. That was not the reason they were chosen. And I was like, and I responded back to him basically LOL, I think Edu knew what he was doing when he chose them. Because okay, he and Klaus are close. I buy that. Okay. I don't necessarily get this vibe that he and Kessler are any particularly closer than he is to any of the guys who he grew up playing in the German youth system with.
Yeah. But on the flip side, the way that Kessler answered the phone, the way they were chatting makes me wonder how much of a friendship they've already built, which is exciting to see. Who is your, most
Kessler.
Important yeah. Okay. Well,
I already know what you're going to
get it out.
Kessler.
But most important player for the season. It's not close.
It is not close. And the fact that he's not been in the team of the week at all
either week is disgusting.
Like we've allowed 1 XG goals against.
And I actually need to go back and look.
Goals.
I think you were right. It's only 1 shot. Berkey had to save 1 shot. Neither of Colorado's shots were on goal. I had to look to check the stats. So you were right. 1 shot over 2 games that he's actually had to save.
It's a moral victory.
I just want to admit that I was wrong.
I appreciate it.
I'm
I
owning up.
appreciate it. Yeah, that's good. I appreciate it. You know, 2 clean sheets, and like I get that we've not had a win, but like that's just outrageous to me that he has not gotten it. And I tweeted this out too. I said if he played for either LA team or Atlanta or Miami, and those results had happened, or either of the New York teams, there is a 100% chance that he would have been in the team of the week, guaranteed. And that's the kind of crap that like we always have to fight with, and that's why I'm not for like luxury tax structures, right? Because like those teams already get so much benefit and bonus from the media coverage that they're in. Even like the official media coverage from the league, like the league knows which teams they need to be showcasing, right? Like just pisses me off, and I feel bad for him because I feel like he deserved it.
He did deserve it. It's not even a you feeling. Like if you look at the way he played, you look at the numbers, like there's not been a center back in my mind that I've seen on the field. And I watched a lot of the games first weekend. Did not see anybody who made me feel like they were playing better center back than Kessler. It also makes Lutz's trade continually to look better.
It absolutely does. Shout out to the time slot changes that allow us to watch other MLS games too, because like before we were always at the same time as all the games were at the same time basically. So yeah, you might get to watch like the first half of one before ours started for an East Coast game, but you never got to watch the other Western Conference teams, you know, unless it was like a West Coast game. And like I'm not staying up till midnight to watch LAFC most weeks. Like
I also lucked out. So Lindsay went to the Blues game that night.
Oh, right.
So she was at the Blues game when I was watching other games because I knew she'd get pissed if I started the City game before she got home.
Well, you could hustle her, I guess, and watch MLS 360 and have every game on. And if they happen to show clips of the City game, like you can't control what's on the feed.
Oh, I mean, I still got like the updates from the app, so
right.
Because I'm too lazy. I'm too lazy to turn it off most of the time.
I just put my phone on Do Not Disturb. If I'm going to watch late, I put my whole phone on Do Not Disturb, and I cut off the entire world. Like 100%.
Even knowing what the outcome is going to be a lot of the time, like it doesn't bother me. Like I'm still excited to see how the team's playing and what's going on and how it plays out. So
you say that until you put your phone on Do Not Disturb. You're so excited to watch the game late. You go to your room because, you know, you're going to watch it with your wife on the TV in there. And it turns out that on the device in your room, you did not set it to hide scores because you have to set it for every freaking device on Apple. And you find out that they had a 0-0 draw against Dallas. That was the most heartbreaking moment of my life. And did I watch all 90 minutes of that 0-0 draw? Yes.
It was the San Diego game for me. We got home, started late because we had the PTO trivia night for the kids' school.
Right.
And we got home and we started it late and we're getting through it. And at that point, like before the game was over, I knew it was going to end in a 0-0 draw.
Yeah.
And watching our offense, it was painful to watch our offense, right? Where I was like, oh, and like, I think it was like the 60th, somewhere between 60th and 70th minute. Lindsay's like, I'm going to bed. And I'm like, do you care if I finish the game? And she's like, I don't care. I can't watch this.
Right.
So I finished the game, but I powered through, but it was not.
It's fun. You know, it was the thing about 0-0 draws is like, we understand as fans of the sport that they have a place in like, this is the way the sport is designed and, you know, the impact of that on the table. And that's where the drama comes in from it. But God, that is not a game. Neither game is a game I would probably want someone to watch. You know, Colorado, at least like it looks like we're going to score. Like this is exciting.
It had you on the edge of the seat because you thought you were going to score so many times.
Yeah. But like even San Diego, like, yeah, they had the ball the whole time and they were, you know, I think the field tilt was like practically inside our 18. What?
One shot though on goal.
One shot on goal. And it's just like they never looked that terribly dangerous apart from the fact that the ball was on the edge of our 18 for most of it. Like that was the only thing that was worrying me, is that if there was any gap or, you know, you rip a shot, anything can happen. Right. Like, it can ricochet off of someone. Like, bad things can happen, but they didn't really create any high chances. I think their like expected goals per shot was like 0.05 or something. Technically, here's another stat for you about the San Diego game. We had more shots on target.
Nice.
Both of ours were on target. And yes, I said both. Because we only had two.
We only had two. Like I said, offensively, we've just got to be more creative. We've got to do better in possession. And I think we will. I think there was a lot of us playing more conservative, trying to combat the energy of the San Diego team and the San Diego crowd. I'll be very intrigued to see how we play against San Diego in St. Louis. I do have... How did you feel with them not starting Yarrow?
I did not like it as much. I was okay with Hebert, but I definitely preferred Yarrow. My concern with Hebert, I will say this. One of the things that you've heard me say before, I think Hebert has typically pretty good positioning, which makes up for the fact that he is nowhere near as fast as Yarrow, but he's still playing against Chucky Lozano, who is pretty damn fast. And so I was a little worried about that speed, but I think he played really well. I think he cut off a lot of Lozano's crossing lanes for coming back. I think he did really well 1v1 defending against Lozano. I think Yara is a little bit more comfortable with the ball. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think Yara's better with the ball.
I don't know that he is better with the ball, but he looks calmer and more comfortable.
He looks calmer and more comfortable.
That's one of the things.
And he's willing to progress it. Like personally, he's willing to carry it forward, which is a thing that I think could have been helpful for that game. But also then he's leaving space behind. If he gives it over, that space is open. They, through ball, etc.
I also think that's something, again, Parker and Kessler are going to get compared a lot because of the trade.
Absolutely.
Kessler's so much more comfortable, and I'm much more comfortable with Kessler on the ball than I ever was with Parker.
Yeah. So before the season started, what was your projected 3 center backs left to right?
So for me, I struggled with this.
Sure.
Because before Baumgartel was signed, it was easy. Left to right was Horn, Kessler, and Nielsen. Or you could flip-flop Kessler and Nielsen.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, you probably didn't have Nielsen as right center back in that.
He can play both, and he's right-footed. So,
isn't Nielsen left-footed?
I thought he was right-footed. I could
be
wrong.
Furiously Google.
You're already on it, so I'll let you figure it out.
Keep talking.
But either way, but Horn's going to be on the left. Nielsen and Kessler, you could flip-flop either way. I'd feel fine either one being right or center. But that was it. But when we signed Timo Baumgartel, it kind of threw a wrench in things. To me, it almost makes Nielsen your 4th center back in a lot of regards. I think Horn is...
Nielsen is, according to Transfermarkt, he's left-footed. He is listed as being able to play both sides, but he is left-footed.
Horn's going to be on the left. That's where Horn's comfortable. That's going to be a thing. But for me, Nielsen almost becomes your 4th center back in that he plays where they are, or Baumgartel does, where needed, right? You adjust from there. And so to me, it means Yarrow and Hebert are mere depth pieces with those sides. Right. Now, Nielsen can never stay healthy, so you realistically still need another 4th center back. It's where Yarrow and Hebert come into play. Baumgartel's still not ready to go.
Well, and he also was sick. It's possible, not that Olaf has said, but it's possible that he was thought to possibly start this game and then got sick. We don't know, but Olaf did not say that. And normally they would say like, oh yeah, we were going to start, Baumgartel, but he got sick. So then we started Hebert to, hopefully not have to use him because you're hopefully not subbing your center back. And plus we had Yarrow. Um, so my thought before the season was it was going to be left to right, Horn or Baumgartel at left center back, Nielsen at center back, and Kessler at right center back. And I have completely changed that now that we've watched 2 games. And I don't know if this is still what the plan was or what it is now, but I don't think you can take Kessler out of that center back role at
Nope.
all. I was digging into some of Baumgartel's stats and history before, um, and he is also right-footed. He's very much a progressive passing center back. He's definitely looking to play the ball forward a little bit more, which is kind of that balance that we get. I kind of wonder if he is supposed to be the right center back when he's fit. And he also, we also have to mention that Timo did not play for like the last 6 months last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like building up like actual fitness. It's like he actually had 6 months off before coming here because of disagreements with him and the coach at Schalke. But I don't know. I kind of think that maybe he's supposed to be the right center back, and then it was supposed to be Nielsen at left center back, and we've been seeing Horn, who has played also quite well. Quite well.
I felt like from the moment we signed Horn, he was intended to be the left center back in a 3-back look. Like if we go 3-back, if in a 4-back look, he's your left back. In a 3-back look, he is your left center back. And I felt like that's why we signed him, because he can do both. Now, when we got Vollum, that can potentially complicate things, but because Vollum's so as attacking minded as he is, if you go to a 4-back look, you just push Vollum up further into the midfield.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if we went to a 4-back look, I think Vollum probably plays that. Like, let's say we did a 4-2-3-1. I think he would be that left mid in the 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think he would freaking kill it in that spot.
Yeah.
I don't know if or when we're going to do that. I know we thought that Olaf would switch formations a lot, and maybe we will see that once he's like fully installed how he wants to play different formations. But yeah,
I expect to see the formation changes during the game, not necessarily at the start of games.
Yeah,
I could see him very much rolling out a look where it looks like it's a 3 center, similar like what we've been rolling, and then Horn sliding over and Totland dropping back with Vollum pushing up all of a sudden, and you're like completely changing the structure of what you're doing to try to catch the team off. I think the way he talked, I feel like that may be, and it's not to say he won't do different, lineups and formations to start a game too, but I could see him playing 30, 40 minutes in one formation, and then either, last 15 minutes of the first half or to start the second half, all of a sudden, the way that you're attacking, the way you're playing looks completely different, which then is the other team is trying to make adjustments at halftime to say, this is how they're attacking us, we need to change. And they come back out and it's like, hey, we changed it all up. Good luck.
100%. Yeah, I can see both. I think Olaf is going to be much more tactical and tactically flexible compared to what we saw in our first 2 seasons. So I definitely do think he will sometimes line up in a different formation to create different tactics depending on the opponent. And I mean, your formation is not tactics. It's what you do within that formation, right? But I could see him at times doing that, especially once teams have kind of started preparing for us in a 3-back look. Like if they are doing appropriate practice and development and getting comfortable with the assignments in different formations, I could see him definitely switching it just to throw a team off, because he thinks that they'll have expected us in a 3-back look.
Yeah, I agree. I think, but that's what we've needed, right? We need that flexibility and ability to change what we're doing during games, between games, so that we're not so predictable. And ideally, it'll make it easier for us as the season wears on to be able to be more creative in attacking and keep the teams on their toes.
I have to say, so I've been watching the Blues game while we talk. The Blues looked really good in the first period, or at least looked like the better team. And then towards the end of the first period, tied it up 1-1. And now the second period's almost over. We're losing 2-1. upsetting.
We still have a whole other period left to go.
We do.
And
Anything can
realistically,
happen.
yeah. And I mean, again, LA is a good team. We did just get a win against them at home, but obviously now we're on the road in LA.
Right.
We'll see how it plays out. Did you see what Arsenal did
No, but they suck.
in the Champions League?
I did not.
There's a coworker of mine who's a big Arsenal fan. They won 7-1.
Oh, right. That was them. Yes, I did see that someone scored 7, and I forgot to go back and look at who it was. Yes.
Yeah, it was Arsenal. And nothing pisses me off more than when Stan Kroenke's teams do well. And the guy's talking and he's like, he started cheering for EPL and he's like, look, I was getting into it. We still had the Rams at the time. He's like, you can't hate me for cheering for Kroenke's team because he owned the Rams. And I was like, hey, the St. Louis connection, it's great. And he's like, now I regret my decision, but I keep cheering for Arsenal. I'm like, that sounds like a you problem.
Yeah.
And honestly, it is a him problem because fuck Stan Kroenke. And Stan Kroenke, we hate you. And with that, everyone, good night.